welcome into the Dropkick basement. Another episode, early part of June here. June just getting started. Summer months are upon us. We are ready for another episode of the Dropkick basement. My name is Mike Madden. I am joined, as always, by my tag team partner and co-host, Tommy Schultz. Tommy, how are you today?
Mike, I'm a little creeped out.
Oh, so you did the homework for the
little
episode.
Homework and got the goosebumps.
It's an interesting time to do this because during our production meeting when we were thinking about this topic, I did say maybe we should hold this off until October. But we always have like great ideas about other stuff to do in October. So strike while the idea is hot. And in my mind, scary or spooky wrestlers are a great topic to talk about. The guys and the gals in the history of the pro wrestling business, who kind of gave us a little bit of a heebie-jeebies, a little bit of the whoos, or like, and you're saying in a traditional horror sense, but then also, we'll talk about a few guys that were just out flat, frightening human beings because they're the most as themselves when they're out in a wrestling ring, and they're kind of nutcases to begin with. So before we get started, before we start throwing out names, thoughts on, I think this is a lost art in pro wrestling, but what are your thoughts on somebody that's got, or can a wrestler that develops a horror gimmick or a spooky gimmick or a scary gimmick, can they be successful in what they call the modern era of pro wrestling?
The modern era, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, there's really been one, I guess you would say, that really stood the test of time, and it went from, it had to evolve.
Yeah. Right. Right.
The Undertaker is the one that you could say is like the only one that really had a long career in one gimmick, but it changed so much.
Yeah.
Over the years. I guess you could throw in like Kane if that was like supposed to be scary.
Oh, of course, yeah,
not.
Yeah.
But in America anyway, I'm sure that like elsewhere, maybe
I think Mexico's pretty
good. Mexico could probably pull it off
because of the masks and because of there's sort of that. I guess the culture of lucha lends itself to sensational backstories, and with a sensational backstory, you can always say, well, this guy is a zombie, or this guy is he's a creature from hundreds of centuries ago that is brought back to life. And I'm thinking like, maybe Lucha Underground was the last time where they built backstories on unique characters that were intended to be deeper than this guy just decided to be a wrestler, or he used to be a football player and now he's a wrestler, or he's a blue chip prospect in other ways, so on and so forth. But I do think like, and this might be just the evolution of the wrestling style in the United States and all over the world, more or less, is that you want to see more. If you're going to watch for storylines, you want your storylines to be relatable and more realistic.
Yes.
Than the zombie who came back, the zombie Undertaker who came back to life, and his burnt up brother who.
So I would say the perfect example of how it doesn't last in the modern era is the Bray Wyatt Fiend character.
So let's start with that.
Okay,
that's actually he's on my list, and if we're going to start with anything, I think the Bray Wyatt Fiend character does show that they at least try to do these type of like paranormal.
They still try
type characters. The original Bray Wyatt character is the sort of swamp preacher,
which I think is inherently more scary than what they tried to position the Fiend to be.
Okay, yeah, and it's the whole. He's got the cult family that's around him. They have the sort of like creepy music, which was always great, which was
awesome,
unique. In a sense, it borrowed some elements from some past wrestlers and past presentations, but it put it into, and I think especially when he like brought this from NXT to the main roster, there were a lot of people that like had caught the vignettes online or had seen bits and pieces of those, that even at that point it was pre-network version of NXT that were like, this is interesting. Like, this is kind of cool. Like, we haven't had anything like this. And it's sort of relatable because it's, basically like this, this Southern preacher, this sloppy, dirty Southern preacher type. So it isn't like you're not raising him up as a, the lack of a better term, a righteous gemstones type, Christian cult leader. He's a backwoods swamp. Hey, I'm telling you realistically, and he's got the Southern drawl, and he's got the sloppy minions around him, and there's the sheep masks. So I think the imagery,
it's got like it's more of a Jim Jones kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, and also when you're talking about like horror movies, like it's that almost that like Rob Zombie horror movie type, where it's a little bit more Texas Chainsaw Massacre than it is Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's I think it's relatable. I think these are characters that they put on television and they got them over. They tried to get them over within their first year. Of course, they ran into Super Cena a lot, but I digress. But that's the type of character that like when it hit and when they gave a good fighting chance at the beginning, it was like, holy crap! Like this is they're doing it the right way. They're making it work.
And then I think once he hit, and I think that he went away, and then the Fiend comes out, and I think that the initial booking of the Fiend was perfect. Aside from the red lights,
but even that was so.
It worked at first, but not. There's a lot to say about that.
But I think like just the idea of it at the very start, they started with the Firefly Funhouse stuff,
exactly,
which was very like skit driven and very like, should we be taking this seriously? Should we not be taking this seriously? Like, they kind of like they made Bray. Boy, they built him up, then they dragged him down, then they built him back up, and they just kept teeter-tottering with him.
I think, right? The 50-50 booking is what fucking killed it.
But when they were like, all right,
of that, the hype of it.
We'll let you use some of your ideas, and they did this brilliantly, where they were like, what would you do with it? And they let him kind of go off and do this, and he's like, well, if it's like sort of like a mock kid show, in 6 months, we'll know exactly what my vision of this is. And my vision of this is a serial killer, unstoppable murder person. Which is great that they finally got to that, and they didn't waste your time with Bray Wyatt wrestling in a sweater vest to start off with, or doing any of the, they did like the vignettes on TV with the Firefly Funhouse people, but they didn't necessarily like bring that to the ring.
Yeah,
it became the Fiend was fully formed. Now the problem with that was when you're doing that, you're bringing in all of the horror elements on a show that nobody else is reacting to it. It's just like, again, it's him in a match and the lights are flickering and it looks great. Like it's this kind of like this unstoppable beast character. but you need him to be wrestling for a title. That doesn't make sense to me. You know.
And also they started doing where they did that like Inferno match.
Mm-hmm. They went gimmick heavy with him. You know,
and he was like burnt to a crisp, but then he came out like as like a burnt turd.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, all right, now we jumped the shark.
They tried too hard. They tried too hard, and this was even after they had him. Didn't they have him drop the world? He won the world title as the Fiend.
He won the world title. He was the world champion as the Fiend. Had like the custom belt, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Had like that horrid Hell in a Cell match. And then they had him lose in Saudi Arabia to
Goldberg.
Fucking Goldberg.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you killed the character there.
Right, yeah.
You killed it. It's over.
He doesn't scare me anymore.
No.
The oldest guy on your roster, a 50-year-old man just beat him on your roster that wrestles twice a year.
A 50-year-old man just beat what is supposed to be a serial killer.
Your untouchable character. Yeah.
In front of a bunch of sheiks.
Yeah, right. Right.
It's like, I can't take this fucking seriously. These guys are in lounge chairs in the front row.
And that's, you know, I think going back to what we were originally saying, like that's what sort of that will forever put that supernatural character whenever they try and revive it. And they did that with the.
And they did it when
unfortunately, after he passes away, they're like, well, you know, anybody that's like tangentially connected to him is going to be in this faction that was like.
That lasted what?
A month?
Again, initially that episode of Raw where they debut the Wyatt Six gimmick, the debut of them was awesome, and everything after it sucked.
So this is the big thing, is that it was good. It could have been better. They absolutely they killed a man. They literally murdered tiny little Chad Gable backstage.
He was dead.
He's bleeding out of the head.
He was dead.
So, okay. So you do all of that, like, and God bless them that, like, they were like, this is a great idea. You couldn't have hired a fucking extra. You could have had a job match earlier in the show where, you know, I don't care who it is. Let's say it's Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman has a squash match against like two guys, you know, two local talents, quote unquote. And then maybe they're the guys that are lying backstage with their heads busted open because you're never going to see them on fucking television anymore. Chad Gable had to be on fucking television. And Chad Gable was over on fucking television as a heel. And now it's like, all right, the Wyatt Six, they ramshackled your show. They threw everything into chaos. Of course, the fans are going to cheer it because you hyped it on television for so long with all of those little those coming attraction things, and you've teased this. And guess what? People read everything on the internet. If they're wrestling fans, they read everything on the internet. So they've got your spoilers before you're doing it. So they're psyched for this group to come out, and the presentation is tremendous. It looks scary. They shot it incredible.
They shot it great. Yeah.
They went above and beyond, but the collateral damage to all of that is it was too much collateral damage to deal with. Plus, they should have debuted as heels. Even if you get a little bit of a cheer, have them fucking murder a babyface on television. Yeah. Have them kill those two fucking job guys. Maybe you're going to get a little bit of cheers over that, but still. Use your announcers to play it up and say, like, these guys are, you know, these were just paid extras to be on our show and da-da-da-da-da. So by killing a main roster guy, now I want that main roster guy to get the revenge because he came back from being murdered in the head.
And then he doesn't, there's like...
And then him and his two henchmen get clobbered on television, like, the next week. And it's like... Or 2 weeks after that, it's like, all right, we established this, but then they sort of like parked it. Oh, and they did one pay-per-view with him. They parked it, and then I don't know. Did Bo Dallas get hurt again?
I don't know.
But you have to worry about that, where it's like, great idea, but where was the writing afterwards, and where was the thought that went into this set of characters? There was a better way to do it, and they keep saying like, oh, wait till next week, they'll do something because Alexa Bliss is back, and she sucks. She sucks when it comes to like being a scary fucking character.
Oh, I hated that.
Jesus Christ.
I love Alexa Bliss as like an in-ring performer.
Yeah.
That whole gimmick where they brought her into the dude, like it was just, and it was just like it was overkill. They just kept that COVID Mania, they had the Firefly Funhouse match.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, that was great. And then they kept trying to do more matches like that where it was like Bray Wyatt versus fucking Braun Strowman in a swamp match or some shit.
Yeah.
And then like him versus Randy Orton in a burning house match. It was just like so fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. And
they killed it.
It's a sad thing that Bray passed away.
Yes.
Because he was I think he was a good idea man for anything that they could have done, when they had him, part of their roster and part of their lineup. So I think he gave a lot of his input into it. And certainly if Hunter had his chance to like do a lot more with Bray, it would have been incredible. Like, and they probably could have like pulled something off like this way better. But,
But then you look back to like, we say that, but then you look back to the last match that he had
LA Knight.
Was the Mountain Dew glow in the dark match.
Yeah, I know.
And God Almighty, I wish I could never watch that again.
That's a good point. So, so that's, I guess, for lack of a better term, that's the most recent example. I'm gonna hit you with some history here.
Okay, here we go.
Because there's been spooky or scary wrestlers all through the history of wrestling. If you go back to the 60s and early 70s, you did have the original Shiek. And I don't know if you got a chance to see the Dark Side of the Ring.
I did. I just watched that.
What an incredible episode. And again, it's sad that
one of my favorites.
It happened in the shadow of Sabu passing away. But the original Shiek, my father used to tell stories about seeing the Shiek on television and how he was like, I don't know if he was a teenager. Probably not. He was probably in his 20s, when he had seen the Shiek on television whenever he came around New York area. But he said the Shiek was the scariest guy, and he was the best bad guy he's ever seen because he did the Arab gimmick, he did the camel walk, and he just seemed possessed because he would do the eye roll back. He'd bring the prayer rug out. He'd be very physically intimidating. And this is before he started to do the real like outlandish foreign objects, the pencil, the sawed off shivs, the knives, whatever he would have, and then the fire. The fire is still the thing that sticks with me. It's a gimmick that's been used a million times, and they still throw it. They still throw fire. He was the first guy that threw fire, and he's still the best. Hands down, he's the best fucking guy to throw fire. Lawler threw great fire. Eddie Gilbert threw great fire. The Shiek was a master at it. But that's the type of thing where if you're in that arena, and you don't expect to see it, and then it happens, a fireball is the type of thing that like you will gasp, and you will have a real reaction to it, like a scared reaction. I can remember, again, I always land on these little stories about being in the ECW arena, but I was there the night that in October of 2005 when they had the incident with Terry Funk getting set on fire accidentally by Jack. And Jack came...
95.
This was 95, right? Yeah.
95, okay.
Yeah. So during the course of the match, Terry Funk goes back to get his flaming branding iron, which he'd used a few times in ECW before then. But now he also has like a mouthful of lighter fluid, and he's spitting fireballs, and he's acting real maniac. Jack powders, Jack goes back to the locker room. He comes back with a folding chair wrapped in a towel or a T-shirt that's got kerosene on it, and he's lighting it on fire, and he smashes it across Terry's back. Terry legit catches on fire for a little while, and that's the type of thing, like, you see like smoke and you see real fire, and like, again, it scares the shit out of you. And then when the lights go out in the building, because they have a planned angle up in the crow's nest, and a man's on fire and at the railing, everybody ran to the exits. It was a full-scale riot. I thought,
Didn't the like towel come off of the chair when he swung it back? Went into the crowd?
It did, yeah. Well, I don't know if it went over
or came close. Close. It went towards
landed
the crowd.
It landed at the railing, and a fan at ringside caught it, or it landed on their jacket or their clothing. So yes, there was a fan at ringside who ended up suing them.
Yeah,
that's why you'll never see that footage.
I remember it was on like some sort of RF video, like tape that I bought at like a local show.
Yeah.
And I remember that was like the ECW's most hardcore matches or something like that. And
extreme something or other.
Yeah.
But it's, that's the type of thing, like going back to the way that Sheik did the fire. It would be a surprise. And the fans would almost be like, whoa, if that thing gets out of control, like we're doomed. And Sheik would do it week after week, year after year. He would have live snakes. Like he was this is the good thing about Dark Side of the Ring, is that they've got the footage. So you're seeing him like with pencils, with snakes, with the saber, with all these extra gimmicks. And you're like, this is the most dangerous guy in pro wrestling. So he is certainly a guy that, like, if you're talking about scary wrestlers, if you're talking about not necessarily spooky or otherworldly type category, tried and true scary wrestlers, like he is at the top of the list. So the evolution of that character or of that type of scary is what this section is going to be. So you have your Sheik, Abdul the Butcher.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the first scary guys that I remember seeing. And he was on... And I think Abby was scary. His size was unique. And the 80s had a lot of fat wrestlers. It was a real golden age of fat wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
So he's not scary because he's a fat guy.
No. It's because he's a crazy person.
He's a crazy person, and eventually he's got to land. So...
Whoa.
And you're watching him on promos, and he would be, so if he's in World Class, he's with Gary Hart, and Gary Hart's doing all the talking for him. In the background, Abdullah is chewing the top rope, or he's like looking, he's got his eyes darting all over the place, or he's legit like I watched him put a quarter in one of the indentations, and that was his trick. He took that, bicycled around that everywhere. So he would take a quarter or a silver dollar and put that in the indentations in his head.
Which is nuts.
So he was with Uncle Gary, for a few months in World Class. Then you would see Abby in Jim Crockett Promotions, and he'd be with number one Paul Jones. And that's just another person where Paul Jones couldn't control him. So you have Abby, like, he's at the podium, Tony Schiavone's talking to Paul Jones, or David Crockett's talking to Paul Jones, and there's Abby just eating paper, and legit like filing his finger. He would sit there and file his fingernails with, like, if he had like a stick or a saber or something like that in his hands. Like, he's just acting like a crazy. He's a madman from the Sudan. Between the ropes, not the most graceful guy, but I swear to God, and another shout out to our buddies at Wrestling Playlist. The Wrestling Playlists, all one word, .substack.com. Still the greatest resource, and they do a couple times a month, they do like a monthly video, and they're in 86. They finished 85, they're in 86 now. And they've got, like, the highlight videos are so awesome. And they've got a lot of footage of Abby, dropping elbows, and you're talking like a 400-pound man just dropping all of his weight on an elbow and doing a snap on the elbow. He's great when it comes to that. And he had a little bit of athleticism to him when
a very little bit.
It was calling towards the end of the match. There goes Abby, and he's ready to drop those elbows. But he had a long history in Japan, Puerto Rico. He was killing Carlos Colon for decades in Puerto Rico, and everywhere he went, and every time that you saw him against a new babyface opponent, it was usually like whoever your undercard babyface was, he's coming after you first and foremost to establish himself there, and then you've got to get the the super kind of monster babyface to go up against him. 9 times out of 10, that's going to be Bruiser Brody, and I'll get to Brody in a second. But it would be Brody, or it'd be Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico, or Dusty. You'd have him against Dusty in Atlanta, or maybe you would get. I'm trying to think, because he never had a run with Hogan, because he never went to WWF because he didn't want to do business with him, and he really didn't do anything with AWA. Although, maybe like a Sergeant Slaughter, on an indie show would be, the guy that's going to go up against him. But you would have to have this formidable presence to go up against the bounty hunter that was going to, ransackle your territory. And Abby didn't go for titles. He won a few titles, but he wasn't so there's the difference between an Abby and the Sheik, or even Bray Wyatt. He's not interested in your championships. He's interested in killing your baby faces. He wants to kill your heroes. He wants to eat Sting. He doesn't want to just beat Sting in a match. He wants to maim him, right?
Yeah, I heard an interview with Mick Foley, who said that when he was in college, he had a a poster of Abdullah the Butcher on his dorm room wall, and he would tell everyone in school that was his father.
It was his father or his uncle. I can't.
One of the two.
Yeah,
but
it's hilarious.
He said the thing that made Abdullah so frightening is that he never wanted to wrestle for championships. He strictly wanted to wrestle to hurt people.
Yeah,
that was his sole goal. And it's that. I mean, that is inherently the most scary.
True.
This guy, he doesn't give a fuck about being the world champion.
No.
He just wants to stab you with a fork.
And at the same point, he doesn't mind bleeding from bell to bell. He doesn't mind bleeding. He is not saying a word, because he's either going to have a manager, or he's going to be in a situation where you don't have to promo the match at all. You're just here it is. It's Abby against Kevin Von Erich, or here's Abby against Abby against Dusty, or Abby against Ole Anderson if he's a babyface. And it's you just know doom is coming. And those people in that arena saw a giant man
giant
just dropping elbows and then taking a fork and stabbing you in the head a million times with that fork. So he's certainly he sticks out in my brain. And he was actually the first thing that I thought of when I was all right, let me think of notes for the scary wrestlers. Abdul the Butcher is he's first in my brain. So I mentioned him briefly, but Brody.
Yeah.
So Brody's fascinating.
Especially in Japan, Brody.
So this is very specifically Japan, where you can look up him in New Japan or All Japan, and there is so much footage of throngs of people, big sections of the crowd.
Oh my God.
Running for their fucking lives. And here's Brody swinging a chain over his head, and he knows what he's doing. And you've seen, I'm sure you've seen this, but there's a beautiful, and I think it's Japan. I know it also happened in Puerto Rico, where he's in the crowd already, and he's run through basically the first level of of fans. Now he gets to the stands. So he's gotten you scared out of your seats on the floor. And those people loved it, by the way. They were scared out of their mind, but they're laughing the whole time as here comes Frank.
Like, oh,
And he's throwing chairs. But then he gets to like the stands and he's ready to climb the railing and get in the stands. And they have cops pulling him down at this point. And it's like, holy shit, like this is a guy who's over. And this is a guy who basically, like, his music starts, you hear him go huss, and then you watch him just sort of like part the seas. Because he's also established over there as a dangerous person, and he could talk. And this was where he's extremely unique for a lot of these like old time scary wrestlers. Brody could talk, and Brody had a very like menacing promo style, right? So like he could start very quiet, and then he just picks up the pace and he starts screaming, or he could just start from the gates and he's just screaming. Depends on if he's a baby face in your territory or if he's a heel. And he's another one just like Abby, where he was a bounty hunter more or less. AWA, he was always a heel in the AWA because he would always terrorize Greg Gagne, or he would terrorize Vern or Rick Martel, whoever it was. Always on top when he went to places like that. So he never came in like, it's never like, oh, we have to establish Brody as something. No. You're getting Brody. Brody's semi-main event or main event in that town. He's in St. Louis, and he's a little bit more, I guess, calm in his style, because he was challenging for the world title a lot with Flair, and he's having like hour-long matches with Flair because when Frank stopped the gimmick, he could actually wrestle in the ring. So he would have really great matches. Did the same in Japan after a while. Like after you chase everybody out of the stands, then you get in the ring and they reestablish their seats. He's going to have a banger match with Inoki or Choshu, or a tag with Hansen, against whoever it may be. And like incredibly unique presentation that he could, like, on a dime, he could come into a territory, be a heel, and then 6 weeks later he's the biggest hero in the territory because he can actually fight back against that manager that brought him in. So it's a world class. It's like Gary Hart or Percy Pringle's like, hey, I'm bringing in Bruiser Brody, you all better watch out. And then within that 6 week period, they better find themselves an opponent, because Brody's sick of this manager trying to tell him what to do. So, lovable, hateable, scary as shit. And like I said, I've never seen anybody move a crowd. Second only to Andre. Like, I think basically, I think the Japanese were like onto something with Andre. Either they knew he was super drunk and he might just like topple on top of you, or they were like, he's 7,000. He's like 7 human beings built into one. And, and he's another one who would just like swap his hand. He would like walk towards somebody, would like lean over a railing. He would like swat a hand, and you would see like a whole row of people like duck out. Yeah. And it's just that command of like, I love to see it. I love to watch footage of that because it makes me laugh, how commanding they could be over that. So you've got, those are your pillars established. I think another guy that maybe not for the stature, but certainly for the presentation, a scary wrestler. And I will include him and the original group that he was with. This is Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, this is one that I had on my radar. Yeah,
and his Army of Darkness in Florida. Yes. Army of Darkness in Florida, and then Army of Darkness branched out to the Savoldis in Boston after a while.
As long as you're not including the Dungeon of Doom.
So I was going to get. Listen, I'll hit on the Dungeon of Doom in a second. What a flop! But no, original Satanist Kevin Sullivan.
Oh my god, dude!
The Prince of Darkness himself.
Creepy as hell.
So this is why Kevin's unique, because Kevin had like he was a master at psychology, and he was a master very much like if you want to say like Bray Wyatt probably took lessons from watching Kevin Sullivan in Florida. Just because he's the type of person, he had that cult leader sort of like cadence. And it's funny, like you think about like this guy with a thick Boston accent who's talking about like Abu Dhabi and eating a Cosmo cookie, and he convinced Mark Lewin and Superstar Graham to like join his group. If you close your eyes and you don't necessarily listen to all the occult words, you're like, well, this guy sounds like just this fun Boston uncle who's then you open your eyes and he's got an X like Charles Manson in his forehead. He's got the black cuffs, the heavy metal black cuffs. He probably has eye makeup on. So his presentation is always like gothic, sort of like shock rock, like a Alice Cooper, Cooper type.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then when he's another one who gets to the ring and he's got all of his minions around him. So it's, the whole Army of Darkness, the Bob Roops and who he brainwashed so many people. He like all of these like beloved baby faces that they were turning heel in Florida. Kevin Sullivan would like get them under his spell, and they would be a new character. So Bob Roop, who was a collegiate wrestler, who had been like a big hero in Florida for so long, turns heel, joins Kevin Sullivan, and I believe he was Abu Dhabi. And they introduced him at that point from Calcutta. Which was like, that guy's not from Calcutta. That guy's from Southern Georgia. And then you had Mark Lewin, Mark Lewin was an established like territory. He had wrestled with the Shiek in Detroit. And he was the Purple Haze, and they introduced him. He came out of the ocean. And Kevin Sullivan's doing a promo in the ocean, and he's talking about, my latest find is the Purple Haze is here. Mark Lewin has become the Purple Haze, and he's going crazy. And Mark Lewin, who's this big barrel-chested, again, another former collegiate athlete, like just comes out. He's got his eyes rolling back in his head. So like, this is what you're getting. So you're getting these guys. You're getting Luna Vachon came from there.
Yes.
Because in a famous angle, they brainwashed her. They shaved half of her head on television. And then they started to, draw the veins and the exaggerated makeup. What would be Kevin's wife, Nancy, who was the fallen angel in the original Army of Darkness. She is like the sexy seductress with giant hair. She gets to handle the snakes. So when it's time for snakes, here's Nancy. She's got, a snake. Kevin's like writhing around in the middle of the ring. This is even before the goddamn bell rings. Kevin's writhing around. She's dropping snakes on him. And it's like, if you live in Florida, because if he doesn't, this fucking chubby Boston asshole is going to kill us all and make us part of his cult. He had the golden spike, and he would hit people in the chest with the golden spike. He was hanging guys on television. They hung Barry Windham on TV. I think they did a big angle where they might have hung Blackjack Mulligan. So like big time, like, you would call them hardcore angles eventually, but like at that time it was like, here's the real gory shit that Kevin Sullivan's doing. It still kind of scared me when he was in the NWA, the Crockett promotion, and early WCW, when he was the Taskmaster and the Games Master, Kevin Sullivan. As we've pointed out on this show, the idea for that character was he was a drug dealer for the varsity athletes that were part of the varsity club. So here he is, like sort of out of his mind, crazy ass Kevin Sullivan, who's palling around with Rick Steiner and Mike Rotundo. And he's encouraging them to, these varsity athletes are going to have bad behavior because Kevin Sullivan's their drug dealer. He goes back to the sort of the creepy Kevin Sullivan with Bam Bam he had in his stable, One Man Gang, Cactus Jack, eventually Oz, and then we get the Dungeon of Doom. You grown now, but like it gets grownier when he's the leader of the Dungeon of Doom. Now, if you took 1983 Kevin Sullivan and you were like, you are a walking, talking R-rated movie. How about you be G-rated on our WCW show, and you're gonna be at a top spot. You're going against Hogan, but we're gonna give you the goofiest fucking group of guys in the world. And this is where the rubber met the road when it came to like spooky characters started to like lose their luster, because you saw the biggest pile of goofballs in that Dungeon of Doom. The Shark, Kamala never been scary. By the way,
yeah, no, you're right.
I'll go over Kamala in a second, but Kamala's in that group. The Zodiac, old goofy ass Ed Leslie. He's in that group.
But then it just started to be like random people. Like Lex Luger was in the Dungeon of Doom for some reason.
Yeah, Vader was there too, and
Conan
and Ming. Right? Yeah, it was basically like a wayward home for terrible heels after a while. I gotta pause. We got a right error on this.
What happened?
I guess we're okay. All right. No, I thought I saw an error. Anyway, no, it was a bunch of goof tied into like all. It completely neutered the original Kevin Sullivan character and made him into the worst cult leader you could ever be. So let me hit a couple. I briefly talked about Kamala. Kamala to me was never scary because Kamala always had handlers around him to stop him.
Yeah.
If one time Kamala like got away from Kimchi and Mr. Fuji or Blassie or Skandor Akbar and he actually like ran after fans, then it would be like, holy shit, Kamala's fucking super scary. And I never want to see Kamala again. But Kamala had a little bit of that sort of thing everywhere he went. So he always had a handler slowing him down. So I don't think the fans would ever necessarily buy him as the scariest guy on their roster. They shot a lot of photos of him like with Hogan's head on a stick for like PWI magazine, but he didn't actually stab Hogan in the head ever. He never really got his hands on him.
Yeah.
So we eventually got to like Memphis, and Memphis had like they had a penchant for doing all of these like real, almost like established horror characters.
Yeah, exactly. That then later Japan
took a lot of this. So like they had Tommy Gilbert, who's the father of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, was Freddy. He was Nightmare Freddy. Yep. In Memphis, and I'd learned this story when I was doing my notes for the show. So Nightmare Freddy is wrestling like he was a heel when he first came in, and then they eventually turned him babyface.
How is that possible?
Right. He wins either a battle royal or like some qualifying match because they did have the working relationship with WWF in '96. I think this is 95 or 96.
Holy shit, it's that late?
Yeah. Well, Lawler's there. So Nightmare Freddy like wins the qualifier, and he's supposed to be in the Royal Rumble. Because the winner of whatever this match was, he goes to the Royal Rumble. Nightmare Freddy and Royal Rumble, as we said. And Tommy Gilbert's, I'm not going to go Doug Gilbert and yourself like what happened there?
596.
Some favors that they did for a few territory friends. But a version of Nightmare Freddy, and Doug did again, he did the father was doing it in Memphis, and they were kind of like taking the characters of Japan. And there's one famous story that Eddie Gilbert finished, and they basically like, they got pinned in their match. They popped right up. They pulled the masks off, and they were like, "We're the Gilberts are suckers," and basically like burned their bridge in the wing promotion in Japan over this whole.
Like I remember vividly, Wing had Leatherface.
Yes, yeah.
Leatherface was Corporal Kirshner.
He was, yeah. Mike
like,
Kirshner, yeah.
Like they
Memphis. Because in Memphis, this was like, you know, I almost want to say like every October, Jerry Harris of the month.
Didn't he wrestle Frankenstein or something?
They had a Frankenstein. They had was from the Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
They had the Colossus, and the Colossus was I don't know who was you know, maybe like a Frank Morrell or some like old timer that had been working in Memphis for years and you know, could still wrestle Jerry in the Mid-South Coliseum. But he was involved. The Colossus monster was part of Jimmy Hart's stable, which everybody was. But he was involved in a match at the Mid-South Coliseum that Andy Kaufman like interfered in.
Oh, okay.
During the Andy Kaufman angle, like there's footage of like, here's Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler having a you know, sort of this angle beatdown at the end of a match because, you know, the Colossus didn't beat Jerry Lawler. You know, it's like the fucking Colossus was involved with this. Yeah, like the Leatherface would come through there. You know, they had a million masks for a million, you know, undercard guys. They had something that was called Tagar, the Lord of the Volcano.
What the fuck is that?
So Tagar, the Lord of the Volcano, was like the precursor to the Black Scorpion.
Oh god!
Where he did these vignettes, and it would be the same, like almost like Ole Anderson was like, "I'm stealing this idea." 5 years later, Tagar would come on, and he had the silver mask. God, they make fun of this on so many podcasts, but I'll just throw my 2 cents in. So Tagar would like do the whole like, Jerry Lawler, I'm coming to Memphis. I'm gonna take your title, and I'm gonna embarrass you, and I'm the new king of Memphis. And it's like, you're the king of Memphis? You're the Lord of the Volcano already. How many kingdoms do you need, my man? But yeah, they love their gimmick guys and mostly horror. Because Lawler was a mark for like I guess he was like a Universal Monster movie guy. So, you know, I'm sure they had a Dracula, you know. I think they had mummies. Glenn Jacobs was famously he was the Christmas creature, where he had a red and green suit and tinsel on, and he was managed by like Burt Prentice.
I don't know how that's scary, but
it's kind of embarrassing scary. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I briefly mentioned also our good friend, the Black Scorpion.
Oh god,
that could have been a scary gimmick, and I'll tell you why. Because magic was involved. I'm not talking about the Ole, like, Sting, I'm from your past. It was when they did it a couple times on, I think, Clash of Champions or even on pay-per-view. They had the Black Scorpion turned a woman into a tiger, or put a woman into a tiger cage, and then the woman disappeared.
Yes.
And then also made a man's head turn around. So, again, it's in the face of, like, real wrestling, but it's definitely scary, spooky stuff where if you had no idea that this was going to happen and you were in that audience and you didn't have the benefit of Jim Ross overselling it, you might go, holy shit, that man's head turned around. I'm never coming back to this again. I don't know who the Black Scorpion is, but he seems filled with all the magic in the world.
Oh my God.
So I mean, again, those are the funnier sides of
yes.
And there was there's another guy that I can't not mention. It's one of my favorite little nuances to a character. So in '89 WCW, Muda is like running strong. Terry Funk is still there, and they're building up the JTEX Corporation. And Gary Hart loves himself a mystical creature or a man with martial art background. They had the Dragon Master, who had been Kendo Nagasaki in Florida, and I think up in Toronto. So he's not coming back as Kendo Nagasaki. He was a totally different character. But the Dragon Master came in. Here's what's unique about the Dragon Master, who was absolutely fucking scary. He came to the ring backwards. So everybody else is walking, like they're walking normally down to the ring. Gary Hart, Muda, Terry Funk. Dragon Master is walking straight backwards. So it's not like, you know, how, like if you start to walk backwards, like, all right,
Yeah,
I'm not
you're
too
going.
sure of myself. I don't know how long the distance is. This motherfucker walked all the way from the curtain in his debut. He walked all the way from the curtain in a straight line backwards to the ring. Once he got in the ring, then he turned around and attacked Flair and Sting and was throwing karate shots and duck and missed and everything. So a little goofy, but still sort of like, oh boy, this is something else going on here.
Yeah.
I think he gave up the walking backwards after a couple appearances and was just like, all right, I'm just walking forward now. Like, I got that over. Is there anything like, and let's not think of specifically wrestlers. I think like to set the atmosphere of it being like a scary event or a scary
Yes.
character. I'm thinking of the actual like gimmicks or the, what they would like bring to the ring. Is there anything that you're thinking of like that initially like puts a little bit of like trepidation and fear when you hear her say it?
I remember the first time that I was scared, and it actually, I made my dad and my grandfather took me to a house show in, I want to say it was like 91 or 92, and we had to leave because I got scared after.
Little Tom.
I was 4 or 5 years old, but it was after the Jake the Snake and Randy Savage
Cobra
bite.
Yeah.
I was terrified of Jake the Snake Roberts. And now when you go back, not only is that like a fucking traumatizing moment, but when you then listen to him cut the promos that came before and after that, and he did it his whole career, but at this point when he's the heel, it's so much that like everyone I think has said this at some point is like a heel is always loud and obnoxious and telling you how they're gonna kill you, but Jake would speak softly.
Yeah. He lulls you into it
slowly, and that sense of, it's like a sense of urgency that you need to.
Yeah, you better be listening to him. He's calculated.
You need to lean in and listen to what he's saying.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
that was horrifying.
Yeah, he's a psychopath.
Another moment, just like this is completely just it's silly now, but the first time I watched the home video release of Halloween Havoc 1993, so the intro to the pay-per-view is like children they're trick-or-treating.
Oh, they're going to Tony Schiavone's house, aren't they?
And they go to Tony Schiavone's house. Tony Schiavone answering the door like a fucking pedophile and then turning into the Wolfman scared the shit out of me. I was like, I can't fucking watch this. This is horrifying.
Maybe you have a darker history with Halloween then. It's not necessarily Tony Schiavone.
But then like seconds later, Jay Youngblood comes out and you're like, oh,
all right, now this is wrestling again.
The Equalizer. And you're like, oh, okay, back to reality.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, WCW wasn't like, well, the scariest part of our show is the intro. But that was also Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, and they had all of those. They had the vignettes. Then they did a good job with some of those vignettes. They could be goofy, but they could also sort of, especially when Vader was like part of them.
Yeah.
Because Vader
that year in particular,
Vader had some scary elements to him. I will certainly.
Vader scared the shit out of me. Yeah. The first time I saw him specifically in the helmet,
the big helmet,
gimmick. Yeah, that scared the shit.
That was meant to be that scary. And it's funny is that I think WCW was like, "Oh, you don't wrestle in the helmet," and he's like, "How can I fucking wrestle in the helmet? How am I going to work with the goddamn helmet on?"
It shoots smoke out.
It was like one of those Jim Herd things where you're like, well, once he takes the helmet off, I don't know if I really like get it. And it's like, look at this fucking size of this guy, and you want him to lug a helmet around? Like,
he just breaks people's necks.
Jesus,
that's scarier than the helmet.
A lawsuit on your hands? Yeah. Send him to the outside. Tell him, hey, Leon, throw a real punch.
Yeah,
you'll be running for the hills. But to me, like, I think so. Indie shows are still like tried and true. Like, you could get a like a horror character, or you could get a scary character over on an indie show in this day and age,
if you do it properly. Yeah.
Because I also think like there is more of the element of like kids that are going to be at this show.
Yeah, that's true.
Their parents are bringing them. This is the first time they're seeing wrestling, especially like non-WWF wrestling or non-AEW wrestling, and they're like, "Hey, we're bringing you to this indie show," and I will tell a story. My partner on the Captain and Madden show, my friend, to a show 2014. Jake was probably about. I mean, if he's 19, he's probably about let's put him at like 10 years old. Maybe 9 or 10 years old. We brought him to the show specifically to see Colt Cabana, because I was telling it, I was like, hey, it's a local wrestling show. It's at St. Joe's here in Keyport, one of the great indie venues of the of the local area. And it was whatever they Wrestle Syndicate before they were
Pro Wrestling Syndicate.
Pro Wrestling before they were Wrestle Pro.
PWS, yeah.
So I think it was like one of the last PWS shows. So, we're going for Cabana because Cabana is entertaining. I'm like, yeah, like, Jake will love it. Like, he does a lot of like gimmicks and he, it's a comedy show. Like, it'll be great. Well, Cabana was on early in the show. Does the whole thing, rah-rah. There was a couple decent, like Brian Myers was on the show. Sanjay Dutt was on the show. So you had some like good wrestling. So we're all enjoying it. We're having a great time. The main event is 3 of their stars, which are probably guys that are still like working on top for them right now, versus I don't even know who he was, but there was a guy with a chainsaw, and then there were 2 guys that were managed by Raven that were like they were supposed to be like sort of like cannibal twins.
Oh, okay.
So it's this sort of like, horror, like almost like a Kevin Sullivan type, like Army of Darkness thing. And the chainsaw, like, you've been to St. Joe's, so like how sound sort of like echoes through that place. They revved the chainsaw the first time, and it was like, over again, and scared it almost like a Brody, like all the little kids that were on the railing that had been slapping high five with Colt Cabana before the intermission were running for their lives. And this poor kid Jake was like, he's hiding behind me. He's a row behind me. And the guy, like, we're at the corner, like about 3 rows back, and the guy he's trying to scare individual kids at this point. Anybody who's like, close enough and didn't run all the way to concession. He's like, and I just kind of like, almost like in a work, you made your point.
Yeah.
And he did kind of nod and understood that, like, enough is enough with the chainsaw. But that's the sort of thing where it's like you get a visceral reaction if you have a chainsaw. You get a visceral reaction if that's another trigger. Or like if you've got a chain or you're swinging something over your head that shouldn't really be swung over your head. It's just the sort of thing that like makes the masses run for the exit like a T to this day. And it's the sort of thing where even after the show, we're taking the car ride home, and I said to Jake, I was like, what you like about the show? What were your favorite parts? And he was like, everything up until that last match. I hated that last match. Those guys were too scary. And I was like, all right, filing this away. If we ever go to the show again, we just look down the card and just make sure it's all regular wrestlers and no spooky Halloween gimmick guys. Yeah, I mean, you could probably like dig deeper and find a few more guys that sort of fit the bill of scary. I don't put the Undertaker in there.
No,
he's more spooky and supernatural.
It's like too hokey.
Papa Shango, we've talked about a million times on this show. He's a favorite of ours, but I think that was more like shock value and gimmicks more than truly scary.
Yeah, because it, like, when you get into like the cartoony, the cartoony aspect of all of that stuff, that's where you take away. Like, it was initially supposed to be creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, initially it was creepy, but then it just gets
It loses a little bit of its luster.
like when
Yeah.
when he wrestled the guy on like Saturday Night, or not Saturday Night, I mean
Superstars?
Superstars, and like the bottom of his shoes
Caught
caught
fire. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, this fucking ridiculous.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, what? That's
It's a corny element. It's a very like corny element to it.
It gets extremely corny.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
I think the tug of war that the creative teams have to play when they're trying to do something that's on like the spookier, scarier, supernatural side is like, you can get the kids. You'll always be able to, but a lot of your audience is adults who are going to be very critical of this stuff. So you really have to be careful.
Toe the line. Yeah.
On where you go with this.
What your side of the how's the outcome of this going to be?
Exactly.
Write it all out before you done it. Test it in front of people that you trust that are not going to suffer for fools. And if it makes it past that test, then start trickling it on TV. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And I think that like when you lean more into reality-based creepy or reality-based scary, someone that is doing something that can actually happen in real life, as opposed to striking someone with lightning in an arena and lighting them on fire
after they just have pyro shoot off the posts.
Yeah. That lends itself more to hitting home with a wrestling fan, where you almost blur the line.
True.
Of like, okay, just a very quick example, and it's not like a scary wrestler, but like more of a, I would say, like, scary moment. Is in the forget the name of the show. It's a Ring of Honor show. The main event of the event is the Briscoes versus Dean Jericho in a ladder match.
Okay, right.
After the match ends, is the debut of the Age of the Fall.
Right.
Jimmy Jacobs and Seth Rollins.
Yes.
Or, Tyler Black.
Right.
And they have like these guys come out first in like all black with ski masks on. They come, but then they hook one of the Briscoe brothers up to the ladder, like the title contraption.
The carabiner, and
he's bleeding.
Yep.
And they raise him up to the ceiling, and Jimmy Jacobs is just standing underneath
white suit,
all white, getting covered in his blood. It's like, dude, that's a masochist. Yeah, that's fucking scary.
That's an excellent visual to sort of tie into this. Is in the moment.
It looks like Carrie, the movie Carrie.
Right. Exactly. In hindsight, it's like, what? And if you have no context and you just see that, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I almost don't want to turn it on, but I can't turn away from it. And
exactly.
If you understand it, and again, if you're in that building that night for Ring of Honor, I'm sure like you could hear a pin drop in the whole thing because people were glued to like whatever. And he cuts a promo like with Briscoe bleeding on top of him as well, right?
Yeah, he's just standing underneath it.
Yeah,
like and he's covered.
Yeah,
covered,
I know.
Like head to toe in blood, and it's just like, it literally looks like a scene from a horror movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's something that like that stuck.
That sticks with you.
That's stuck in my head forever.
Yeah, yeah. Wild stuff. But I think we hit a lot of the good points.
Oh yeah.
This is worth revisiting when we, maybe we want to talk about dangerous wrestlers at some point, or dangerous angles that that we saw. I think there's a lot to sort of to work off of. Real life is a scary thing, so that's that's an element that certainly I think that's the takeaway of this episode is that we think real life people are scarier than some of the gimmicky guys or gals that did it. So good stuff. I think we really rocked it. I know I'll probably have like a night terror tonight for sure. Thinking about Jimmy Jacobs under all that blood, or Kevin Sullivan and people throwing snakes on him, or just Abdul the Butcher dropping elbows. That's enough to give you a nightmare. But this is a good one. Glad to explore the history of wrestling this way. So on behalf of Tommy on his end, this is Mike on my end. We hope you guys have a great night, and we will see you at the matches.